Given work from home and the frenzy of all things digital and technology, how does one still stay relevant?
Okay, so these are actually a lot of issues. I have often in my speeches for the last couple of years, not even now, I have said that in the future there will be two kinds of companies: those that are digital and those that are dead.
Oh.
And I never thought that something like a pandemic would come in and force people to think digitally.
Right.
But every time, industrialization, machines, technology, IT, artificial intelligence, machine learning is talked about, people have a fear that they will lose their jobs and their relevance. And I think this fear is actually ill-gotten in a sense. So you find a wide spectrum of behavior from various companies, those that, think about technology as a hobby. So I actually was addressing a senior group of people in one of the companies, and I said, do you have a chief digital officer and do you have a digital division? And they said, yes. I said, you will never be digital in your life, because for you, digital is a hobby. Unless every one of you turns digital, starting from the CEO downward, and thinks digital, you will not change. And what is digital? The digital world has changed many things. It has said that, routine work, stuff that really human beings should not be doing, machines will do it. So it really means that human beings have to reskill themselves and become relevant in the new context.
Right.
And find things that they will do in the future. So people do things like somebody said, trends are like horses. It's easier to ride them in the direction in which the horses are running. So everybody will come around and say, Acha, COVID ho gaya, let's do cost cutting, let's reduce salaries, let's retrench people, let's work from home. But nobody is really thinking about it deeply in terms of the fundamental change that is required, which is what makes the difference between average companies, good companies, and great companies.
Okay, so I'm just going to be very careful at this stage, and I'm going to urge all our viewers, because I have a feel that what you're going to say right now could be profoundly significant for all of us.
Well, most companies suffer from myopia, short-sightedness, and they don't want to take considered bets on the future. Now, this has something to also do with the leadership, let me tell you. Leadership determines the amount of risk that an organization takes or will not take.
Right.
And when we have the time, sometime we'll talk about it. But you have to re-engineer people, policies, customer interfaces, and technology. You have to make considered bets on the future. Now, for example, work from home. Mm-hmm. Now, after everything is over, everybody is expecting to go back to work. But why do you need to go back to an office now?
True that.
I'm asking a simple question. So when you think about that, are companies really, they have told people, look, you work out of homes, but are they really helping them develop their home offices? Have they offered them Wi-Fi? Have they given them nice devices? Have they seen whether the Wi-Fi works at their home? Do they have large screens? Because that's their office now.
Correct.
It is so hard for women in particular. They have to work at home, and at the same time, they have to do the other things at home. Actually, for them, work at home has become a bit of a burden, more than the men.
We're hearing a lot.
And so therefore, our company is sensitive to that. When a Zoom call starts, does the CEO of the company ask this question saying, how's your family doing? Or does he straight away jump to the job and thinks that I can call this guy on a Saturday, on a Sunday at 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock because I've got him hooked onto the other end of a computer? So is the CEO first thing in the morning looking at his performance results, or is looking at the health reports of his people? I don't know. These are questions to ponder over. There is a saying that when there is a storm in the sea and the fishermen can't take out their boats, they sit at home and they fix their nets. They repair their nets.
Yes.
This is the time for companies to repair the nets. But this storm has been going on for far too long. So you have to now find ways to go back into the sea and fish in innovative ways. You can't just keep repairing your nets because it's a question of livelihood. Because if your livelihood is not good, then you're going to have problems.
Yeah.
Look at things. Look at the way work is changing. Juniors are no longer sitting at the end of the hall in some obscure place or at the end of the table not to be heard and hiding. They're right on your face.
Yeah.
There's a democratization. Everybody has an equal place on the table.
Well,
and therefore, both...
Beautifully put, Sandip. I'm just going to stop here and kind of say it again. This is for the first time actually that everyone has an equal seat on the table. We've been hearing about this for such a long time, saying seat on the table, but
Yes.
as you said it, a penny just dropped. There is equalization, and this pandemic has made us all live in a more equal world. Thank you.
So, which is an opportunity both for the leadership as well as for the individual. Now you've got a 40-minute Zoom call and you've got to make that 2-minute elevator speech.
Right.
And you have to be effective. So everything, even the physical restructuring of offices will have to change. I mean, are we going back to offices and just tweaking a little bit here and there? Are they ready for today's modern world? Do we have social distancing? Everything needs to be changed. Are companies thinking in design thinking terms? Everybody, it's trendy to talk about AI, design thinking and all those kinds of, but what is design thinking? Design thinking is simple. It says that when you have a bar on the door, you push it.
Yeah.
When you have a knob on the door, you turn it. So the question is that, these are intuitive things. So are your offices becoming zero touch, auto sliding doors, auto lighting, biometric recognition? Are you using microbe resistant materials? Are you looking at your air conditioning? These are the things that you have to do in your new office. Otherwise, your offices are obsolete. All offices are obsolete. I don't care how they look or how modern they look. This thing about cabinless offices, open working environments have all become difficult now.
Yeah.
So you have to rethink. And how many companies are thinking that way? Or they're thinking, pandemic is going to come to a close and we'll go back to normal. So I think we must also understand that there are many things that will not change, like creativity, originality, initiative, critical thinking, attention to detail, resilience, flexibility, problem solving, emotional intelligence, analytical skills, intuition, social influence, and finally leadership. I don't see machines and technology doing that.
Yeah.
So, and what are the people spending their time on? Are they reskilling themselves? Somebody said in a Harvard Business Review that I was reading a couple of days ago, said every individual needs to do 101 days of learning.
Wow.
And it doesn't matter if you're learning your own subject. You could learn anything, because when you know more about other things, even history teaches you how to do a technology job better. I mean, look at Steve Jobs. What did he learn? He tried to be a graphic artist.
Yes, he wasn't even a technologist to begin with.
And look what he created.
Of course.
Work design will change, processes will change. This whole thing called anytime, anywhere has actually come to fruition.
No, beautifully put, Sandip. Like I said, so many pennies are dropping for me, left, right, and center. I hope other people are out there collecting it in their, little magic box as well. Do you see leaders reaching out to you to seek these insights and perspectives, Sandip? Or do you think people think they kind of got it all and they can fix it all? So in the last 2 minutes that we have, it may be an interesting input. While I know we have an entire segment on leadership.
Well, I have had the good fortune of talking to a few companies, and I'm not surprised that those companies called me, because they're very liberated, open thinking companies which are very contemporary in nature, which are keeping in step with what's happening. They're not pinching themselves to check whether their pulse is still beating or not. But there are challenges. There are challenges of remote working. People think that if you don't come together in an office, your culture is affected, your loyalty is affected, your quality and quality time is affected. But how mothers talk about quality time, working mothers. I think now Zoom is about quality time.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of companies are reaching out, but a lot of companies are stuck because they're waiting for things to go back. And I think that's where a number of companies are not making the transition that they need to make. And that is where, what did Bill Gates say? He said the most important adjective in the modern world is knowledge. That's why you put adjectives like knowledge worker.
Right.
It has never been more relevant as it is today.
So thank you for sharing that, Sandip. And I do want to kind of end this by hoping fervently that it's time that at least the progressive companies and the leadership there kind of realizes that they almost need culture architects now. They need a very senior executive coach who can talk to them based on their experiences and a little bit of a, future thinking. So with that, thank you so much, and I'll catch you soon one day again.